this. So Hare Krishna, welcome to our Gita Gyan, level 2. So join me with this prayers as we invoke the blessings. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Bhakta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami
Hari Priye
Jayatam Surato Pangur Mama Manda Matirgati Vatsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohana Jayata Divya Vrindavaranya Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Prashtalibihi Sevyamano Smarami Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirbhisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vikna Vinashana Visamhaiti Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayatim Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tat Sat Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everyone. So welcome back and thank you for joining me this evening. So we are continuing with our chapter 18. This is going to be a 3-week session. So we did the first week, I think it was last week. Yeah, last week we did the first session, first part. So today we will do the second part. And we will end next week with the third part. Okay, so because chapter 18 is the longest chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, 78 verses. So we want to go through them and do justice to each of those very, very important discussions. So chapter 18, as we mentioned previously also, the title is Conclusion. It's basically concluding. While Krishna is concluding, actually Krishna will give the conclusion in the later part, which we will cover in next session. But before he gives the conclusion, he will talk about the perfection of renunciation, moksha sannyasa yoga. Right? So let us just recap what we did previously. So chapter 18 is mainly, as I talked about in the previous session, we showed you the build-up of the chapters from chapter 13, 14, 15, 16, how eventually from the materialistic path, the path of karma kanda, because there are three types of paths. One path is the sense gratification path. So those jivas who have the desire for sense gratification, they want to get what they want in this life and everything. So there is the fruitive activity path, the path of pravriti marga. Pravriti marga was the path where all these Vedic sacrifices, all the rituals. If you want to get something, then there is a legal way to attain it. So it has to be done through sacrifices. Sacrifices of time, work, effort, energy, wealth. So these are all sacrifices according to scripture. So if one wants a good family, then there are certain prescribed duties. If one wants to reap a harvest, then there's a certain prescribed duties. So these were the pravriti marga. But pravriti marga very gradually brings one to a higher destination. And it cannot, in pravriti marga alone, cannot actually grant a person liberation, freedom from the cycle of birth and death. So slowly as they perform pravriti marga, they will come to the platform of, okay, they become, they start to develop, by the culture of sacrifice, they develop knowledge. And by the culture of knowledge, they will understand the impermanence and the permanence within this material world. What is permanent and what is impermanent? What is eternal and what is temporary? What is matter and what is spirit? So as they get this knowledge, then they will want to do something about it, because they will realize, okay, this situation is not a good situation. So how do I get out of this cycle of birth and death? So the moment one asks this kind of question, how to escape from this cycle of birth and death, how do I, what is my actual position? So why am I suffering? So these kind of questions, when a person acts on it, then another path is given by the Lord, the path of Nivriti Marga. So Nivriti Marga is the yogic path. In this Nivriti Marga, this is the path. Nivriti means is the opposite of Pravriti. Pravriti is all about sense gratification, auspiciousness and getting bigger houses, bigger family, getting wealth. So that is auspiciousness in terms of materialism. But Nivriti Marga is opposite. It is basically going internal. It is self-searching, soul-searching, developing detachment, developing attachment to spiritual matters, not so much to material items, family or name, fame, glory, none of these things. So this is the path of Nivriti Marga, the path of renunciation or Tyaga. So, but in the Nivriti Marga itself, there are two paths, right? So this Nivriti Marga is the path of the yogi. So yogi means Nivriti Marga. So, but Nivriti Marga, there are two paths. One is the Jnana Marga, the path of light or the path of knowledge. And the other is the Bhakti path. So we mentioned this many times already, all right? So the other one path, the Jnana path, it's a stage by stage progression from karma to jnana and dhyana, like that. Eventually from dhyana, they will come to bhakti, right? Whereas the bhakti yoga path, it also has its stages, but generally it begins with the understanding that Krishna is the supreme. That is bhakti yoga, and the desire that we want to serve Krishna. Whereas in the jnana path, this understanding is not there in the beginning. They do not acknowledge the supremacy of Krishna. So instead, they will sacrifice their efforts and their work for the sake of duty, that is karma yoga, and then they will develop culture of sacrifice, and eventually they will want to search out the difference between matter and spirit, that is jnana yoga. And as jnana yoga, they become, they attain the objective of jnana yoga. So then They will want to renounce everything and dedicate themselves fully into spiritual practices. But still, they want to search what is that source of that all creation? What is the source of the Brahman? So as they search, the method of searching is meditation, and that is dhyana yoga. By meditating, they finally discover the Lord seated within their heart. And to see that the source of that Brahman is the Parabrahman, which is the Paramatma, and this Paramatma has a form. So when they discover this, then they will want to, the fortunate dhyana yogi will want to render devotional service to that supreme person. So again, he comes back to bhakti. From bhakti, then he, that is the perfection of his life. So this is all that we have discussed previously already. So this is the chapter 18. So previously we talked about the beginning part of this chapter 18. Krishna was telling Arjuna about Tyaga and Sannyas. What is the difference, right? What is Tyaga and what is Sannyas? Arjuna will ask. So it seems very similar, Tyaga and Sannyasa, but we clearly define, Krishna clearly made the difference, the distinction. Sannyasa is giving up all activities based on material desires. So that is sannyasa, giving up. So it's basically give up material activities based on material desires. That is sannyas. So they don't perform the normal activities anymore. They don't work. They don't have social lives. Finished. Whereas Tyaga is more superior than sannyas. Why? Because they are continuing their duties, but instead of giving up the activity itself, they give up the mentality that follows that activity. They perform the activity not because they want to attain the fruits of that activity. They perform the activity, but they give up the fruits. They do not, they renounce the fruits. They do it as a sake of either for duty, which is karma yoga in the jnana path, or they do it for the sake of the Lord, which is the mixture between karma and bhakti in the bhakti path. So these are the two options. And between the two, sannyas and tyaga, Krishna tells Arjuna clearly, no, Arjuna, don't give up your job as an archer, as a warrior, as a kshatriya, and go to the forest and do nothing. And in the name of moksha sannyas, you want to give up karma, you want to give up all karma, and you want to take up sannyas and go to the forest. This is not what I recommend you to do, because you have not come to that level where you will be, because one has to come to the point of liberation from material. One has to give up material activities. So that's no point when one does that without having controlled his mind. So that can only be done when the mind is already controlled. So therefore, instead, Krishna recommends Arjuna, no need to follow this jnana path, you follow the bhakti path. You do it for me. You work, you fight, you continue this war, but you do it as an offering to me. Don't do it because you want to enjoy the kingdom, or do it because you want to do it for the sake of dharma. No, all that is okay, but do it for my sake alone. So that is what Krishna is saying. So renouncing sacrifice. So then Arjuna will ask Krishna, okay, so you're telling me I should not take up sannyas. I should instead continue doing my activities as a kshatriya, but I dedicate them for your pleasure. Okay. Then he asks a question, what about those who are in more advanced state, those who have developed further advancement in spiritual life? Because in chapter 17 previously, you were talking about the three modes. So chapter 17 earlier, they were talking about material things in the three modes. Whereas chapter 18, Arjuna is basically wanting to know, okay, but what about certain activities like sacrifice? You're talking about renunciation. You're talking about tyaga. Should I also renounce things like sacrifice, charity, and penance? Should that also be renounced when I decide to take up tyaga? In the concept of tyaga, should one renounce also sacrifice, charity, and penance? So to that, Krishna very clearly says, these things, sacrifice, charity, and penance, should never be renounced. Even when one takes up sannyas or one is in the spirit of tyaga, one can still continue to perform sacrifice, charity, and penance within the three modes. So, but do it in the mode of goodness. So this we have discussed already: sacrifice, charity, austerity in the three modes. That was in chapter 17, right? We talked about this already. And Krishna says, don't give up. Instead, remain in the mode of goodness and perform sacrifices in the mode of goodness, perform charity in the mode of goodness, perform penance in the mode of goodness, but ultimately do it for my pleasure. Remember, Om Tat Sat, this was chapter 17, we discussed. Do it for my sake, Arjuna, Krishna says that. Dedicate it to the Supreme. Because these three activities, they continue to purify, right? Even though they are material activities, they are not transcendental activities. Sacrifice, charity, and penance, they are material, dharmic, pious activities. They are not spiritual as per se. They are pious activities. Remember, there's a difference between spirit and piety. Piety leads one to higher planets, better birth, better facilities in one's next life. Whereas spiritual activities severs this cycle of birth and death, the three ropes of the modes of nature, and liberates a person. So that's the difference between piety and spiritual activities or transcendental activities. So though the sacrifice, charity, and penance are piety, still one is who is in the path of spiritual realization, he should never give these up, because this keeps him in the mode of goodness, and from the mode of goodness we transcend. So that's important. So then Krishna will continue to tell Arjuna about the three types of sannyas. So his recommendation is, don't take up sannyas until you are ready for it, right? Instead, even if someone takes up sannyas, a person who is doing his duty but in the mood of tyaga is superior to that sannyas, Krishna will say. So tyaga is superior to sannyas, but still he will discuss about the three modes in sannyas. So it's important for us to understand also the three modes of sannyas. So this also we discussed in the last session. We already covered this. So after talking about how tyaga is superior to sannyas, the spirit of renunciation. So it's a very interesting topic, because one has to continue doing one's activities, but one has to do it with the spirit of renunciation. So this is tyaga, remember? So how to do this? So to understand this properly, right, Krishna will talk from 18.13 to 18.39, quite a number of verses. And all these verses, we like to call it the secret of action. How to perform action and still be spiritual, not to be trapped by the three modes, not to be bound by karma. So, and one who can do that is superior to a karma sannyas. So that is what Krishna wants Arjuna to do. So Krishna wants Arjuna to continue fighting, kill the enemies, perform his duties, but he will not get sin, because he is supposed to work in tyaga mode. So let's see how to do that. So this is the point. So the Bhagavad Gita 18:17, there's this verse. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. So this is the secret of action. This is what we can do in the spirit of tyaga. So even though he performs his activities, daily activities, as a Kshatriya, he has to kill his enemies. As a farmer, they have to till the ground. As a Brahmana, they have to perform their normal sacrifices. So every activity has karma involved. As to make it more in a context which is relevant to all of us. So we go to work, we perform our work, and then we come back, we take care of our families, and then we do some service for our family, we do service at work, we do service for the society. So all of these activities, there is some karma involved. So we will either get piety or we will get sin, depending on whether we are doing it according to scriptural injunction, right? So, but if we master this concept of Tyaga, which is basically Karma Yoga, Tyaga, right? If we master this concept, we can continue doing our work, our duties, our activities, our services, but it will not create karmic reaction for us. In fact, it will keep us free. So that's why it says, very, very severe example is being stated here. Kill. So even if someone kills people in this world, he actually does not kill. Because why? So here's the secret. Because he is not motivated by false ego. That means he's not doing it because he wants to do it or because he thinks that it should be right or whatever it is. No, he is doing it according to the instruction of the Lord. So this is transcendental instruction. And that is transcendental. And he is not doing it to gratify himself, to get gain, to get name, to get fame, or to get some kind of, some kind of gain in any way. He's not doing it for that purpose. He's doing it out of transcendental instruction for the sake of upholding dharma. But that also is not the real reason. Not so much to uphold dharma. If he is killing people to uphold dharma, he will get punya karma. Punya karma, right? Not sin, he will get punya karma. But punya karma also will tie us to this material world. So instead of doing it for the sake of dharma, do it for the sake of Krishna. That is what Krishna is saying. Do it for the sake of the Supreme Lord. Or do it for the sake of spiritual emancipation. So that is the secret. And for that, one needs proper intelligence. One needs to know what is right and what is not right. So this is not very easy to attain. So that is one of the reasons Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 4.32, Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. One should take up a guru, one who has seen the truth, one who is well versed in this, and one who knows the scripture and one who practices it in his life. So such a person can guide another in this secret of action. So we talked about in the previous session, we are still recapping, right? In the previous session, we talked about how there are 5 causes of action. Action, whatever activity that is being carried out in this world is due to 5 causes, not one cause. People will think, I am the cause. I don't do this, then no one can get anything. If I don't cook, no one is going to get food. Or if I don't work, nobody is going to get money. So that is not the proper understanding. There are actually 5 causes of action. One is the body. The type of body that we have influences the result of the action or the mode of which the action is performed. Like, for example, a fish cannot compete in a 200-meter land race, right? It doesn't have the body for it. Place. So likewise, if a human being wants to do a 200-meter race, he cannot do it in the sea. He has to do it on the land. So the type of place also matters. Some places are in the mode of goodness, some places are in the mode of passion, some places in the mode of ignorance. So the type of place, the type of body that we have, this is one influence. This is called kshetra, right? The body or the place. Sometimes here, so in this particular verse, it's called Adhisthanam. Sthanam means place. That is the first point. Second point was, the second cause of action is one has to put effort. You may have the body, you may have the place, everything may be conducive, but if we don't put the effort, it's nothing is going to come out of it. So effort also is in the three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. And then the third factor is the worker, which is the soul, us. Obviously, a dead body or a place is not going to give any result without the living entity, the jiva, who inhabits that place, who has come to that, who inhabits that body, who has come to that place, and he who is putting the effort, right? So this is the worker, the jiva. And then we also have the senses, the instruments. The senses are like the instruments. So the body is like the farmer, the person, and then the land is like the place, and then the whole is like the instrument. So one senses the type of eyes, the type of nose, the type of hearing. What does he like to hear? What does he like to do? What does he like to eat? So accordingly, the action is also influenced. So therefore, these are all the 5 factors of action: worker, body, place, senses, effort. One more factor, which we mentioned previously also, the Supreme Lord, Paramatma. He has to allow. Without the Paramatma's sanction, nothing takes place. These other things all can be there, but without Paramatma's sanction, it will not work. So sometimes it's also known as destiny. Without destiny smiling at you, all the effort will not come to fruition. The farmer can hoe his land. He can put all the seeds. He can use the best hoe. But if the weather and the temperature and the rain doesn't cooperate, then that's it. Nothing will come. No harvest that year, right? So that is this we discussed previously. Okay, we'll skip this. We've already mentioned all these things. So the 5 causes of action is described here. Now, with this alone, right, if you want to perform some activity, this alone is not enough. The farmer can have his hoe, he can have his seed, he can have the land. Imagine you go to a child, a 3-year-old child or 5-year-old child, you give them a land, you give them a hoe, you give them a seed, and then you leave them. You don't tell them anything. What will they do with it? They wouldn't know what to do with it, right? They may not plant the seed. They won't know what to take care, right? So therefore, knowledge is needed for the action to come about. And that knowledge has to have an objective in mind. So if the farmer wants to grow crops and he wants to get the crops grown, so therefore that is his objective. So therefore his knowledge is working towards that objective, right? And once he has got his crops grown, what is the purpose he wants to have his crops grown? Ultimately, there is an ultimate purpose behind that. Why he's doing what he's doing? Because he has an ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose is he thinks that it will give him happiness. So he thinks, if I am the body, I have this body, I have the senses, I put my effort, I am the worker, I pray to the Lord, and by his blessings, with the knowledge that I've got, I have a certain short-term objective. I put all my effort, I work, I try to get the fruit of this objective, and then I think that it will give me happiness. So this is the cycle of action. How action comes about, right? Now, in order to master this, the secrets of action, now if you want the secrets of these actions, we need to analyze how to position ourselves in each of these situations. So therefore, we want to look at the 3 modes, how the 3 modes will work in each of these situations. So today, we will talk about since we already talked about Paramatma, worker, body, senses, effort in the last session, today we will talk about knowledge, object, happiness, and few other things that comes in between in the three modes. So knowledge in the three modes, jnanam. So knowledge in the three modes, what are the three modes? Mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? So first we talk about ignorance. Knowledge in the mode of ignorance. What kind of knowledge is this? The type of knowledge which makes us think one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all. That means he only does that one thing only. He doesn't do anything else. Like he knows how to dig the ground. Okay, he digs, and digs and digs and digs, and that's it. He does not do anything else. You know, like what do you call a factory conveyor line. You know, in a factory when they're producing some, let's say they're producing a washing machine, so it will go through a conveyor belt. First it will, and then in each part of the conveyor belt there will be a person, an operator, who's stationed to do only one thing. So this, as the thing comes towards us, we will take and maybe we will put plastic in that area or something like that, and then it will move away, and then the next thing will come to us, and we are repeatedly doing the same thing again and again and again. So here we are talking about knowledge. So if somebody whose mind, his knowledge is, he only knows, like for example, we have a lot of people, you know, they work, they go to work, and they only talk about their work. They talk about, okay, let's say somebody is let's say somebody is a dentist, for example. They talk about dentists. They go everywhere. They talk about dentists. You know, their field. They go to their home. They also tell all their family members. They visit social circles. They talk about their career. They only know that. They don't know anything else. And after they retire, they become very morose because they don't know what else to do. So that's when dementia sets in, all these other things, you know, Parkinson or whatever, all these other situations. Because, you know, it is a scientific fact. A lot of people in this world, their health deteriorates terribly once they retire. So that's why a lot of them, they continue working because they don't want to deteriorate. So that becomes their motivation. Oh, if I retire, I'm going to lose my brains. I'm going to lose everything. My health will go. So better I just continue working. So that kind of knowledge is in the mode of ignorance because they do not understand other things. Whereas a person who, you know, there are many people also who can retire, but they have so many things to do. So they are looking forward for their retirement because they have so many things to do spiritually or whatever, you know, it doesn't matter, but they have things other than what they have been doing all the while. So that is knowledge in the mode of ignorance. One is attached to one kind of work as the all in all. What else? Without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager. So the type of knowledge which is not really the real truthful knowledge, you know, and which is very meager, not really all encompassing. It's a small niche, it's a small thing which they know, and that's it. It doesn't really have much, you know, extremely small set of understanding. So then we have knowledge in the mode of passion. Mode of passion, in every different body, there is a different type of living entity. This is the predominating knowledge within the mode of passion. So the driving force within the knowledge of someone, here, the point here is they differentiate people. They differentiate people, they classify, they separate, they start categorizing that you are this, you are that, you are that, you are this, you are that, you are that. And they also think that different types of living entity is there in every one of them. So this kind of intelligence, it sees the world in terms of enemy, friend. It sees the world in terms of duality. You are my enemy or you are my friend. So, you are my family, you are not my family. You are my same race, you are not my same race. You are my brother, you are not. So like that, that kind of, you are my countrymen, whereas you are not my countrymen. So that kind of division. So it's a very divisive intelligence, but it is a progressive intelligence. It is more progressive than the mode of ignorance. It can bring about many things, because in order for us to make progress, one has to categorize and one has to classify, right? Then only we can make progress. Just like in school also, if we want to do well in our school, we understand who are the types of friends who are also having the same mind, and we try to make friends with them and we form study groups with them. We don't want to mix with the type of people who may cause a problem. So that happens, right? So usually they form cliques or form groups. So that is differentiation, which is necessary for progress, but it's the mode of passion, right? Then we have knowledge in the mode of goodness. So this knowledge is very unifying knowledge. One undivided spiritual nature is seen in all innumerably divided living entities. So this is also progressive, and it is harmonious. It is not divisive. How is it progressive? Because we acknowledge and recognize division. We do accept that people are different, things are different. But at the same time, we see everything as divine. We see everything as part and parcel of the stream. We do not discriminate in that sense, right? So that is intelligence in the mode of goodness. So as far as possible, one has to bring one's intelligence to this harmonious situation, where we don't want to create division. We don't want to only focus on doing one thing only, which is very small, narrow-minded or very small-minded. We want progress, but at the same time, harmonious progress, where we do not divide. And it's not about divide and conquer. It's about embracing the divisiveness of there's a famous statement, division unit. I can't remember that. Anyway, basically it's embracing the divisiveness, strength in strength in variety, something like that. So that is mode of goodness. Okay, so we have to consciously, it's a conscious effort. We have to, in everything that we do, we have to cultivate this type of knowledge. And then we've talked about how knowledge is in the three modes, right? And this knowledge is also given by the Paramatma, according to our karma, according to our desires. So the Paramatma is still the factor behind knowledge. So then we have the object of knowledge. So what is it that we want to get? What is it we want to achieve? But before we go to the object of knowledge, we want to talk about, just now we mentioned the worker, right? The worker and the effort. So the action and effort of the worker in the three modes. What kind of action or effort should one put? So this is important to understand. So we have the mode of ignorance first, right? So in the mode of, okay, I just happened to see a chat. Please explain spiritual and piety. Okay, so actually we mentioned this many times already, but never mind, it's confusing sometimes. So piety, remember when we were talking about karma, we talked about there are three bank accounts, right? There is the sinful karma or papa. Papa means sin. And then there is punya. Sinful karma, papa karma, and punya karma. Punya karma is piety. So sin will lead us to lower births and misfortune. and to hellish planets. Whereas punya karma will lead us to higher, like for example, what is punya karma? Like we do good to someone, we help somebody in some difficulty, or we give some charity to people, or we perform some, we are generally truthful, or we perform some tapasya, we do some fasting, like that. So that is punya karma, as far as we are doing it in which mood. So that's what we are going to discuss here. You see, action and the effort and the worker. The mood is very important. The objective of what we are doing, why we are doing, is also important. But in general, if our objective is because we want to enjoy the result, why we are fasting? Because I want to become thinner, or because I want to basically control my tongue a bit. I want to become more determined in my activities, right? Or for some kind of reason like that. Why am I giving charity? Because because I like giving charity, or because it's something that I feel sad for that person, so I want to give charity. So that kind of activity these are good activities, and by doing them we will get punya karma. So you do good, we will get good in return. Either we will experience it in this life, or we will experience it in our next life, where we will get better birth, we will get a more beautiful body, a more intelligent body, or a more famous personality. We are born as a king, or we are born in a rich situation, or even you can take birth in the heavenly planets. So that is punya karma. But still, after all these things are done, again we have to come back and take birth again in this material world. So it's like merit and demerit. You do good, you enjoy the good results, but still you have to take birth again. Whereas, and if you do bad things, you suffer the bad results, and you have to take birth again. So that is the difference between punya and papa. Spiritual activity is not about our perspective. It's not about simply doing good for the sake of doing good. Spiritual activities is a very focused and very it's highly focused activity for a particular purpose. It is meant for liberation. So that is what spiritual activity will give us. Spiritual activity will not by performing spiritual activity, if we desire it, we can also go to the spiritual, we can also go to the higher planets, we can get all the punya karma benefits we can get. It will also destroy the sinful activities. But that is not the main goal. That is not the purpose. We are not interested in enjoying life, or we are not interested in removing our karma. The main actual purpose of spiritual activity is to break the cycle of birth and death, to come out of the cycle of birth and death. So those are spiritual activities, right? So the type of activity is there. For example, reading Bhagavad Gita, chanting the names of the Lord, fasting for Ekadasi. Why we are fasting for Ekadasi? We are fasting for Ekadasi. If our main purpose is because we want to take care of our health, then it is still spiritual, because even accidentally we do spiritual activity, we still get the benefits. But slowly our hearts will change. Just like how Dhruva Maharaj, even if we have, if we remember the story of Dhruva Maharaj, he had material desires. But by performing that spiritual activity, this spiritual activity can do one thing which other things cannot do. It can change our heart. It can change our desire. That is what it can do. It can change our desire and our heart. It can give us renunciation, and it can give us attachment to God. That is what spiritual activity will do. And that attachment to God will bring us out of this material condition. Okay, so let us talk a bit more about the motivation. So in the mode of ignorance, action right? So what kind of action is in the mode of ignorance? If somebody performs action in illusion, thinking that this will give me something good, but actually it's not, right? That is illusion. That means we are working not in the right mood, right? Somebody has lied to us, or we think that this will give us something, but actually it won't. So that is performing some work in an action in illusion. In disregard of scriptural injunction, we don't follow what scriptures say. We disregard it. We do the opposite of what scriptures say, right? So that is action in the mode of ignorance. For example, scriptures say, don't kill, thou shalt not kill, but people go and kill anyway. So therefore, that is disregarding. That is an action in the mode of ignorance. Without concern for future bondage, so they are not interested in what happens after. They are only interested in the now. So now I feel angry. Now I will, due to my anger, I will perform an action. I don't care what is the repercussion. I don't care what will happen to me in tomorrow or whatever. So that kind of action is in the mode of ignorance, without concern for future bondage or harm caused to others. And who is the type of worker who will perform this kind of action? The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, doesn't want to listen to good advice, cheating, always cheats. Even if they force him, he will find a way to cheat. An expert in insulting others. This is very interesting. The worker who is expert in insulting others. This is in the mode of ignorance. And who is lazy, always morose, always, very negative minded, and procrastinating. He doesn't always, tomorrow, it's okay, some other time. So that kind of mentality. This is the type of action and worker in the mode of ignorance. So we don't want to remain in this. So we have to scrutinize ourselves and try to rise above. Now, let's also understand what is work in the mode of passion. Now, we don't want to be in the mode of passion also, because whatever that we do in the mode of passion will lead to misery eventually. That is the fruit of the mode of passion. The fruit of the mode of passion ultimately is misery. In the beginning, it looks like honey. In the beginning, it looks very nice. But if we continue that way, it will lead us to misery. And the problem with the mode of passion is it frequently brings us lower to the mode of ignorance. It never brings us to the mode of goodness. It never elevates. It only makes us go down. So what kind of action is in the mode of passion? Let's try to identify. So the Gita says, action which is performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego. So this kind of kadumyana davam, they will say. So a lot of effort is put in, a lot of activity, so and this is materialistic activity. So put in a lot of effort, which makes us sacrifice so many other things, sacrifice our time, sacrifice our health. So that kind of thing is in the mode of passion. And the type of action which is motivated by false ego and desire, to get that desire. I want that thing, so therefore I will perform so much of effort just to get that thing which I want. So that is action in the mode of passion. Or because it will increase his ego. Oh, if I work very hard, I save a lot of my money, I stinge here, I eat Maggi mee for every day, and then I save this money and I will buy myself an expensive handphone, or I buy myself an expensive car, and then I will go in this expensive car and I will whip out my expensive handphone, and people will all look at me and they will say, wow. So that kind of motivation is mode of passion. You see this also, right? In many things. So what kind of worker is it? The worker who is attached to work. So he's very attached to his work. He doesn't see anything else. Remember, in the mode of ignorance, it was something like that. But this one, he's not lazy. He's not procrastinating. He's willing to put in a lot of effort, but he only thinks of that work only. These are the type of people who are like the workaholics. They work, and they don't have time for anything which is conducive for spiritual life. They don't have time for family. They don't have time for their health. So this is all in all, work, and enjoying the fruits of their work. So this is the type of worker. Who is greedy, always envious. So he's always envious. Such a person, he's never happy actually, because envy is always haunting him. Somebody else will always be better. And because he has put so much of work, and when he sees somebody doing better than him, he burns with envy. So such a person is never peaceful, impure, and too much moved by joy and sorrow. So they lose their equilibrium, they lose their mind. When they are happy, they are so happy. And similarly, when they are sad, they will lose their minds. So these are the types of workers in the mode of passion. So we have to understand this, recognize this within ourselves, and try to bring ourselves to the higher level. So what is action in the mode of goodness? Action in the mode of goodness, see, this is a very important word here, regulated. So anything which is regulated, routine, right? That is in the mode of goodness. Performed without attachment. So we do it for the sake of doing it, for the sake of duty, for the sake of pleasing elders, for the sake of pleasing God. So this is in the mode of goodness. Actually, if we do it for the sake of God, that is actually transcendental, spiritual, no longer in the three modes. We do it out of love, without hatred, without love or hatred, sorry. That means there is no attachment. It is in a very detached manner. One performs it in a detached manner, not moved by the passion. So this is Kali Yuga. People like to say passion. You know, the word passion is used everywhere. Let's have passion in life. Let's do it with passion. So better than passion is goodness, where one does it for duty. And that doesn't mean that one does it grudgingly or one does it half-heartedly. One does his best, but because, you know, have you heard of this word cold-blooded murder? You know, when somebody is fighting, when someone is fighting a sword battle, or like if you are a fan of Star Wars, so you will see, you know, in Star Wars, they have the Jedi and then they have the Sith. The Jedis are the people who, you know, they don't use anger and passion to fight. So they become very very controlled, very disciplined, that it's very focused. They don't allow anger, hatred, intense feelings like love to disturb the person's equilibrium. So that is in the mode of goodness. Whereas if we allow our emotions to control our determination, then the result will vary very much. It is not consistent. So that's one of the problems, right? So therefore, this is in the mode of goodness. And what kind of worker is in the mode of goodness? One who performs his duty without false ego. So remember what I said, duty with great determination and enthusiasm, without wavering in success or failure. So he's not after praise. He's not after ego. So he performs his duty very well, and people praise him also. Oh, okay, yeah, thank you. But it's not really, that's not what motivates him or her. So it is a very strong sense of what is right and what is wrong and what needs to be done. So it is not because I'm doing this because I want something out of it. So that is very, very rare. That is mode of goodness, that type of characteristics. And without wavering in success or failure. See, this is the problem with the mode of passion. The mode of passion is motivated by success and brought down by failure. So if the person has a string of success, then he becomes more and more passionate and his activity becomes better and better. But if he has a string of failure, then he doesn't get motivated. He loses his, he stops doing his work. So that is the thing. So similarly, this is in the mode of, so it doesn't matter, you know, if people appreciate you or they don't. We do it for the sake of doing it, and we do our best. We do it for the sake of doing it, and we give our best in doing it. So that is what Krishna wants. Bring ourselves to the mode of goodness. Can you imagine if everybody did things like that? If the whole society, if all the teachers, all the government officials, all the, you know, the policemen, all the doctors, the dentists, the everybody, if all of them perform their duty, the garbage collector, the bills, everything, if everyone did their duty with this kind of mood, right? It's not, there won't be bribery, there won't be, so there won't be corruption. So this is the mode of goodness. So we have to understand and recognize this and bring ourselves to this level. So we've talked about the worker, the effort, the type of effort in the three modes. We talked about knowledge in the three modes, right? And now we will talk about intelligence in the three modes. So what is the difference between knowledge and intelligence then? Isn't it similar? Yes, it's similar. Knowledge is knowledge. Intelligence is what we make out of this knowledge. Like, for example, if I tell someone, okay, I'm giving you knowledge that eating fruits is good for health. Okay, that is knowledge. Whereas understanding is more of, so how do I apply it? Okay, so when do I eat fruits? There is a time to eat fruits, right? Like one shouldn't eat fruits together with grains. So that is, it creates indigestion. So application, understanding what one does with that knowledge. Like, for example, the knowledge of nuclear fission. So the knowledge of nuclear fission, okay, I know how to break the atom, splice the atom. Now, what kind of intelligence have I got will determine what I will do with that knowledge. You know, it's like knowledge is like the sword. The sword can be used to cut the enemy, the criminal, or the sword can be used to stab ourselves or to also attack innocent people. So that is buddhi, intelligence. So that's why knowledge is dangerous. If the person doesn't have the right intelligence, they will do a lot of havoc with that knowledge. So, you know, a lot of people in the past, the government sometimes likes to stop, it tries to control knowledge, the free flow of information. So sometimes people say, right, knowledge is power. Yes, but power in the wrong hands. What kind of intelligence that person has, that will be very dangerous. So knowledge has to be, one has to be qualified to receive knowledge. So then one can apply that knowledge in the right way to benefit people. Like a child. Like if you see society now, society is trying to improve more and more in technology. But what about the maturity of society? So society is still not matured. They are still having ego problems. It's like a group of children, isn't it? Like if you give a group of children, they like to fight with each other. Kindergarten, you see that in nursery, kindergarten, they always like to fight. Oh, you took me, you took my things. No, I want this. This is my chair. This is my whatever. They like to say like that. Imagine you give them nuclear weapons. What will the child do? Without nuclear weapons, okay, the worst they can do is they can shout, they can probably scratch each other or something like that. But it doesn't really harm. But nuclear fission, this knowledge of nuclear fission given to that child, what can happen? So this is the problem with society. We are not matured or capable of handling the advancement that we are seeing in technology. So as a result, in the name, they will always say, oh, let's explore this new technology. If I explore this new technology, I can do so much of good to society. So they will say like that, and they will apply for grant, and they will cheat the public, and they will take the taxpayers' money. But after they achieve the technology, it's not, most of the time, it's not used for the good of the people. It will first of all go towards military. The technology will be taken into military first. And after maybe about 20, 30 years being used in the military, then only it cascades down to civilian technology. So this is the problem. So let's see. Buddhi in the three modes. So we have intelligence in the mode of ignorance. Is kind of or understanding. Buddhi or understanding in the mode of ignorance. What kind of understanding? Characteristic is it considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion. So it's opposite, right? It's like what's happening now. If somebody sees a man or a woman who is able to have many husbands or many wives, they have 5 husbands or 5 wives, divorce one after the other, or they manage to collect a lot of money, even beg, borrow, still doesn't matter how they did it, but they managed to do it. So then people say, wow, such a great person, right? So the hero worship nowadays is very different. Previously, people used to worship characters like Lord Ram. He was the standard. But now in South India especially, in Tamil Nadu, they worship Ravana. In fact, someone wrote a book where he depicted Ravana as the hero and Rama as the villain. And that book, actually, the author in that book received an award by the government of South India. And, it became famous and all. So this is the thing. Considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion. So nowadays, things like divorce, it has become common. It has become accepted. Abortion has become very much accepted. So people are now compromising more and more. Like that, we have situations like gay or lesbian, this kind of the LGBTQ plus community. This also has become very much accepted. It's fine. It's not that we should discriminate against them, but one should understand that allowing that to become a norm is not going to be healthy for society in the long run. So that has to be understood. So this is what J.K. Rowling, she's also pushing that kind of agenda. But the point here is considering irreligion to be religion, religion to be irreligion. Why? Under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction. So this is buddhi, understanding in the mode of ignorance. So you see this very much due to so much of freedom movement, freedom for everything. This is called a misuse of freedom. Freedom for all kinds of thinking. But this kind of intelligence with the wrong understanding, it can lead to very serious situations. The degradation of society at large. It's a very big topic actually. but we don't have time to talk about that here. But let's look further. What about the mode of passion? So the mode of passion, this kind of understanding by which cannot distinguish between religion. So this is slightly better between ignorance. Ignorance is opposite. They think religion is irreligion, irreligion is religion. You know, if somebody is drinking milk, so they will say, oh, this is cruel, this is bad. But if somebody is killing animals and eating meat, so that is fine, that is okay. So that kind of thing. Whereas mode of passion, it's not opposite. It's not that they deliberately understand opposite, but what they cannot differentiate, distinguish between religion and irreligion. So their understanding is, oh, all also can lah, everything also can, this also can, that also can. So they don't distinguish between religion and irreligion. They see everything as freedom, as equal rights, so this is mode of passion. They cannot tell what is the right action and what is the wrong action. You know, we see this a lot also in corporate world. In the name of activity, you know, people are very hardworking. They want to, you know, like a new boss. If you get a new boss will come, and then he has to meet his KPI. So therefore, he will set so many activities. Whether the activity needs to be set or not, it doesn't matter. The point is, I need to show my boss that I am doing some activity. Whether the activity is necessary, whether it is going to be better, no, it doesn't matter. So that kind of understanding is in the mode of passion. Simply doing activity for the sake of doing activity. So Srila Prabhupada, he likes to say, there are 4 types of intelligence. There is lazy intelligent, hardworking intelligent, lazy fool, and hardworking fool. So there is lazy intelligent, lazy fool, hardworking intelligent, and hardworking fool. So Prabhupada said, amongst these, the best is, so we would expect to think the best is probably hardworking intelligent. But Prabhupada says, no, the best is lazy intelligent. Lazy intelligent is the best because he will use his intelligence to make things easy for everyone and for himself. So therefore, he will always find solutions. Whereas the hardworking intelligent is not bad, is second class. They will find many activities to do. They are intelligent, at the same time, they are also very hardworking. So they will make life difficult for everybody also, but at least he's moving in the right direction. So the people who are under them will end up doing a lot of work. Okay, so, and amongst all of these, the worst is hardworking fool, not lazy fool. Lazy fool is harmless. He is a fool, but he is also lazy, so he cannot cause harm to other people. He won't do anything. He simply will not create. Whereas the hardworking fool can create a lot of problems for a lot of people. Because he is a fool, everything that he does will create problem. And because he's hardworking, a lot of problems he can create. So this has to be very carefully kept. So anyway, so the ignorance, the mode of ignorance can be the lazy fool, whereas the mode of passion is the hardworking fool and the hardworking intelligent. Example, a very simple example. So, but not very intelligent, because they cannot differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. Then we have the mode of goodness. So mode of goodness, by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. So this is why he knows, because he is guided by sadhu, shastra, and guru. So there is no doubt. He knows what ought to be done, what ought not to be done. So it will always create auspiciousness for people around. It will not create problems. So what is to be feared and what is not to be feared? What is binding and what is liberating? So he knows these differences. So this is very important, because when he knows these differences, his priority setting will be perfect. So he will utilize his energy and his effort and his time and his knowledge towards attaining meaningful goals, not only for himself, but also for others. Meaningful goal, this is the key. The one in the mode of passion cannot achieve meaningful goal unless he is guided by someone in the mode of goodness. Then he can utilize his energy in carrying out meaningful goals, right? Whereas the one in the mode of goodness, he himself knows what is a meaningful goal, and he will utilize his energy and his time and effort towards attaining that. So that is understanding in the mode of goodness. Very deep subject matter, this understanding in the mode of goodness. A lot can be talked about this. Many examples can be talked about. We need to think about this deeply. Can read the purport. So these are verses 18.30 to 18.32. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. You can read them. Right. So, but all of this, even the knowledge, the understanding, right, the effort, all of this is given by Paramatma only. So according to our previous karma, what we deserve and our desire in this life, we've got a certain type of body with a certain type of inclination to create an effort, with a certain type of knowledge which we get, and a certain type of understanding. So accordingly, if we are not guided, if we are not receiving guidance by Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, then we will continue in this way. But if we receive guidance, then we can bring ourselves to the mode of goodness. So with knowledge, with effort, with intelligence, one can achieve the object of knowledge, the fruit. One can achieve the fruit, right? What is that object? What we want to get? So that also is given by the grace of Paramatma. Without God's grace, one cannot receive. One can put effort, one can, 10 people may put so much of effort, but not everybody may be successful, right? So some like, we have so many businesses. If you see businesses, 50% of businesses close down. So all of them may put effort. They may have knowledge, they may have determination, they may have the right intelligence, understanding, but still there is also something called destiny. So ultimately there is also destiny. But without effort, without proper understanding and knowledge, right, the destiny sometimes, unless we are very fortunate, right, it will not come about. So we also need to put all these efforts. So once we get this object, then in order to get this object also, there is something from this object, there is something called determination. Now, effort is one thing, knowledge is another, understanding is another, but motivation is also another thing. So motivation is another factor. So what motivates us? Why we are doing this effort, why we are getting this knowledge, why we are trying to get this object, right? The farmer wants to get the crop to grow. So that is his object. He wants the crop to grow. He wants the fruit to come. Why? Okay, that why is later. That is the motivation, right? So whatever his motivation may be, right? This determination which comes from that motivation is also in the three modes. So what is this determination? This is called dritya. Dritya in Sanskrit means determination. So determination in the three modes. So let's see. Determination in the mode of ignorance. Determination in the mode of ignorance is very difficult, too much inertia, no determination, in other words, right? Which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. So these kind of people, they are very expert in daydreaming. But when it comes to reality, so they talk a lot, they talk big, they talk every kinds of thing, you know, and they may have all kinds of ideas, but they will never do anything. They will never bring about. So the determination is very weak. So then we have mode of passion, by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. So his motivation is fruitive result. He wants to attain that desire. He wants to get that, whatever it is that he wants, whether it's money, fame, power, so any of these things, or sense gratification, he wants it. So because he wants it so much, he's willing to put all kinds of effort into it. So that is determination in the mode of passion. And then we have determination in the mode of goodness. That determination which is unbreakable. So it cannot be broken. Why? Because it doesn't depend on success or loss. So that's the difference between passion and goodness. It is steady in all circumstances, whether there is rain or whatever, it doesn't matter. Whether he has a string of successes or he has a string of failures, it doesn't change his determination. Very simple, because it's not based on the result. It is based on sadhu, shastra, and guru, because it's based on a higher purpose. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, you know, one, for example, one does a spiritual seva, right? So he performs a spiritual seva. It doesn't matter if people recognize, or it doesn't matter if people pat him in the back, or it doesn't matter if nobody knows. Doesn't matter if even people don't appreciate it. If it doesn't matter so what he does it because it pleases Guru, it pleases Krishna, because he's driven by scriptural injunction. It's based on scripture. So he understands that this is what is important. So even if the mass public cannot appreciate, he still does it. And with full determination, which is sustained by steadfast. So this here it is. It is sustained by steadfastness, by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses. So this is in the mode of goodness, the type of determination. So this is spiritual determination in the mode of goodness. So if you want to do something spiritual, if we want to bring ourselves towards spiritual understanding, we have to raise ourselves to the mode of goodness. And by that spiritual practice also, it will bring us to that mode of goodness. So this is what spiritual practice can do. It can bring us to the mode of goodness, eventually, slowly. So then we have finally the ultimate objective. Why we are doing all these things, all this effort, the knowledge, the understanding, the object of knowledge, the determination, eventually simply because we want to get happiness. We think it will give us happiness. So happiness or sukham is also in the three modes. So what kind of happiness are we looking for? So there are three types of them. Mode of ignorance, the type of happiness which is blind to self-realization, which has nothing to do with Atma Tattva, to understand that we are spirit, nothing to do with that. That is happiness in the mode of ignorance. That happiness which is delusion from beginning to end. It is simply delusion, like for example, computer games or virtual reality or drugs. When someone takes drugs, he is in the happiness. You know, ecstasy pill. They eat that pill, all this marijuana and all these things, ketamine. They take it, they are in cloud nine. They think this is happiness. Or alcohol, they drink it and then they feel, oh, I'm so happy. So this is delusion from beginning to end. Arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion. Then we have mode of passion, the type of happiness derived from contact of the senses and their objects, like sexual pleasure, like satisfaction of the eyes, satisfaction of the tongue, satisfaction of the ears, the nose, the skin, right? Of all of which, sexual pleasure is the topmost, which is what is described by scripture. So this is mode of passion. So the capitalists know this very well. So that's why, psychology, they understand human psychology very well. So therefore, they like to use this very much. They try to brainwash the population towards taking up the mode of passion. So you see the mode of passion, passion, everything you must do with passion. So, oh, you're dancing very passionately, or you're singing very passionately. So all this is accepted as wonderful and great. So once the population is brainwashed into glorifying the mode of passion and accepting the mode of passion, then they can sell to them, because it's connected to the mode of, all this is connected to capitalism, right? If it's connected to the senses. So if we can brainwash people into this, then we have a big market. If people think that they need this, if people think that they cannot live without the latest handphone version, or they cannot live without the latest watching this latest serial or whatever, then we have a wonderful market, so we can become rich. So that is happiness in the mode of passion. So this is a very important point. See here, it appears like nectar at first, but becomes poison at the end. So this is the nature of the mode of passion. What is in the mode of goodness? Exact opposite. In the beginning may be like poison, but nectar at the end. So spiritual practices are like that. Oh, I don't like to wake up early. Oh, in the beginning is difficult, but in the end, it leads one to eternal bliss, right? Chanting the holy names, reading and trying to understand scripture. Oh, why it's so difficult? I got no time. I'd rather be doing something else. In the beginning, it's an austerity, but eventually it awakens one to self-realization. This is what the mode of goodness does. It awakens one to self-realization. So that's the reason we have to bring ourselves to the mode of goodness. Other modes, the mode of passion cannot awaken one to self-realization. It will in fact lead one to poison. That means it brings us to mode of ignorance only. So mode of passion, we have to be very careful. We cannot keep ourselves in the mode of passion all the time. Occasionally, once in a while, okay, fine, right? But most of the time, it has to be the mode of goodness if we are serious in attaining self-realization. And mode of ignorance is a complete no-no, right? So therefore, this is in summary, right? The worker, the body, the place, the senses, the effort, all of these, with the right effort and with the right knowledge, right? And with the right understanding, we can get the fruit of knowledge, which will be what we want. And why do we want this? Because we think it will give us happiness. But we have to understand all of these are subjected to the three modes, and all of these are also subjected to Paramatma, subjected to destiny. So these are the five, the Paramatma, worker, body, place, senses, and effort. These are the five factors of action. And besides that, there are also these other factors, the knowledge, the understanding, the object, the determination, and the happiness. So all together, if we bring this all to the mode of goodness, if we set it all to the mode of goodness, then that is Tyaga. That brings us to the level of Tyaga. So it's a very wonderful situation. So according to these three modes, right? So I'll just finish a bit more and then I will finish it. According to the three modes also. So, not everyone can be in the mode of goodness, right? So that's a problem. Can everyone be in this mode of goodness? Some people are born in a certain way, so they are naturally inclined due to their karma and due to their previous desires. In this birth, they have got a certain set. Oh, I may be in the mode of passion. I may be more in the mode of ignorance. I cannot bring myself to this mode of goodness. Oh, how to do, what to do? So that's the difference between the jnana path and the bhakti path. In the jnana path of spiritual attainment, right, one has to bring oneself to these modes, to this mode of goodness by very difficult situation, by practicing mechanically, by renouncing, by going to a secluded place, not mixing with other people, controlling our tongue very carefully. So it is very difficult effort. So that is in the jnana path. And in that way, one mechanically performs this. And as they perform this meditation and all this knowledge acquiring and everything, the process purifies them. The process purifies them. And slowly, level by level, they will rise from the mode of ignorance to the mode of passion. And from the mode of passion, they will rise to the mode of goodness. And from the mode of goodness, eventually they will transcend. But it's a very long process. It's a very difficult process. Why? Because we don't get help. We are doing it all on our own. So that is the jnana path. But in the bhakti path, it is different. In the bhakti path, the grace of Krishna is there. So we are putting our effort, and by performing some spiritual practices, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, right? Dasyam, Archanam, what else? Archanam, Pujyam, and Sakyam. So by the process of hearing about spiritual topics, about the glories and pastimes of the Lord, that is Shravanam. By hearing the chanting of our Mahamantra. So, and then Kirtanam, repeating these glories to other people, chanting the names, reciting the Bhagavatam or the Srimad Bhagavad Gita constantly. So hearing, chanting, and what we chant, we also hear. So as we hear, we chant, what we chant, we hear. So it's a cyclic process which controls the mind. And when the mind, in this way, by hearing, chanting, the mind is controlled. And slowly, our three modes fall away. From the mode of passion, we will automatically come to the mode of goodness. From the mode of ignorance, automatically we will come. So that is how Prabhupada was able to convert so many drug addicts, hippies, all those people who are addicted to sexual activity, illicit, all kinds of things. He went to such a place, and within less than a year, they were able to become devotees, simply by the mercy of a very pure devotee and by the process of chanting, by which they took up very seriously. They had great faith in Srila Prabhupada, and by that faith, they were able to purify themselves by following this process. So don't despair. If we feel that we are in the mode of ignorance, if we feel that many things we are in the mode of passion, I am not in that kind of a level, Prabhu, oh, it's difficult for me to attain. Don't worry. That is why the spiritual process is there. The spiritual process is there by simply chanting and hearing and reciting the Gita, simply by doing these things every day, and also putting a little effort. The little effort is that we put the effort of, try to 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no illicit sexual activity, no gambling, no intoxication. We try to follow these 4 pillars and try to do our sadhana, the chanting and the hearing. We can start, even if we cannot do the 16, even if we cannot do the 4 regulative principles. So what we tell everybody, Even if you cannot follow the four regulatory principles, even if you cannot give up intoxication, if you cannot give up meat eating, if you cannot give up, doesn't matter. Simply start chanting and hearing. Simply by chanting and hearing, by doing some service to Krishna, some kind of service. We come to temple, we associate with devotees, we do some donation, or we can buy Bhagavad Gita, we give it to others, we eat prasadam. Simply by seeing the deity being abhisheked, by watching the arati of the deity. But we have to do this regularly, right? By regularly doing these things, you will see the transformation taking place. We will give up these lower desires. We will see how we are coming to a higher situation. It's practical. We can actually feel it. So that's how it happens. So because now that is the bhakti path, but Krishna is not talking about the bhakti path now. He is talking about the slow step-by-step effort, right? So therefore, he's talking about how one should come to the mode of goodness in all of this. And because he understands that human beings, we are of different character, different quality, different type of modes. So therefore, Krishna says, I have divided society into the 4 classes. So those people who are naturally more towards the mode of goodness, they are trained as a Brahmana because they are naturally inclined in the mode of goodness. They are born that way. So, but what to do with them? So therefore, train them as Brahmanas so that they understand the absolute truth. They know what is the highest goal, the purpose of life. So these are the qualities of someone who is in the mode of goodness. Sama. Samo comes from the word sama. Sama means peaceful. They are peaceful. Dhamma, self-control. They are good at self-control. Tapa, they can perform austerity, simple austerities, right? Like Ekadasi, like abstaining from meat, that kind of thing. Saucham, cleanliness, right? Shantir, tolerance. They are able to tolerate. Arjavam, honesty, right? And then we have jnanam. So these things, samo, dhamma, tapa, saucham, shantir, arjavam, these are the preliminary qualities, and certainly also the other 3 qualities. So these are more important qualities. Jnanam, knowledge. Vijnanam, applied knowledge or wisdom. And ashtikyam, religiousness, very important. To follow by scripture, to have faith in scripture. So jnanam, knowledge, vijnanam, wisdom, and faith in scripture. So these 3 are very important qualities for a Brahmana. Brahma, karma, swabhava, jam. This is the natural born nature of a Brahmana. So this is someone in the mode of goodness. So these are the type of people who should lead society, who should lead everybody, because these are the, so to say, lazy intelligent, because the Brahmana doesn't do work, right? He basically studies and he guides and he teaches and he leads by example. And he keeps his life simple and he is austere. So he doesn't produce the envy of others. So such is a Brahmana. So that is the goal of ISKCON society. We want to produce everyone to be ultimately come to this platform. But we have also other types of people who are Kshatriyas. So what are Kshatriyas? They are those who are having passion and goodness mixed. So passion and goodness is mixed. So what are the qualities of Kshatriyas? So first is Sauryam. What is Sauryam? Heroism. They are very heroic, right? Tejo, Teja, powerful. They are very powerful. Dhritir, determination, very strong determination. Daksham, resourceful, very enterprising. They know how to find a way. Even though obstacles are there, they will know how to find a way. Yuddhe, in battle. Yuddhe chapi apalayanyam. So that means they don't run away from battle. They are willing to face challenges. People who are ready to face challenges. So these are Kshatriyas. And at the same time, very important also, not only these things, not only heroic, not only determination, power, and facing challenges, more importantly, Dhanam, charity. They need to give charity. This is one of the duties. They are charitable nature. They must give charity. Ishvara Bhava, leadership, right? They can give very strong leadership to people. So these are the qualities. Bhavascha, Shatram, Karma, Swabhava, Jam. This is the natural born qualities of Kshatriyas. So why they are in passion and goodness? Passion gives them heroism, power, determination, and this kind of very passionate. So they perform all this leadership, taking of the nitty-gritty, taking care of the nitty-gritty, so that is Kshatriya. But why they are mixed with goodness? They are mixed with goodness because Kshatriyas, they follow the instruction of the Brahmanas. Even though they are kings also, but they bow to a Brahmana. When the type of people, the Brahmanas, when they say something, the Kshatriyas will try to follow. So according to the injunction and the direction, so the Brahmanas want to worship, they will tell you, okay, you need this, you need to do this, O king. We cannot do this, we are Brahmanas. So you take up the management, you take up the administration, ensure that all these facilities are there for the benefit of humanity. So there is mutual respect between Brahmana and Kshatriya. So the Kshatriya works under the order of the Brahmana, or the guidance, not order, by the guidance of the Brahmana. So that's why they are in goodness. So the passion is utilized in the right way. So that is, but now in Kali Yuga, we don't have Kshatriyas, we don't have Brahmanas so much. Okay, then we have Vaishyas. So Vaishyas are, sorry, this is an error here. It's passion and ignorance mixed. It's not passion and goodness, it's passion and ignorance mixed. So what's the quality of a Vaishya? Vaishya is basically Krishi. Krishi means farming, agriculture. So they are interested in the growing of crops and everything. Their role is to nurture. Go Raksha, cow protection. This is a very, very important duty of a Vaishya. So it's highlighted, not only farming, but cow protection. So that is very important. So this is how it was previously. So the vegans don't have an argument with this Vaishya. So not only plant-based, but cow protection. The cows weren't exploited. So the milk and all wasn't sinfully obtained. The cows were not killed. So they were protected and the cows were happy and they produced ample of milk. So, and this milk was used by the Brahmanas to serve the deity, and the milk was used for producing yogurt, which is used to do Abhishek, and the yogurt is used to produce ghee, which is also used for Abhishek and used for Yagyas. So therefore, all this comes from milk. So therefore, this is very important. And milk is a very wonderful thing, which is needed for spiritual tissues. Prabhupada says, by drinking milk, we develop the finer tissues of the brain. The finer intelligence of the brain is developed, so that because milk is in the mode of goodness, so it increases the mode of goodness in our body and helps us to understand spiritual topics easily. So that's why that is basically go Kraksha. So cow protection was very important. So this is the Vaishya karma, the action of the Vaishya. And then finally we have, there are also the majority class of the people will always be in the mode of, this is Brahmanas are rare, less rare are the Kshatriyas, more common are the Vaishyas, and most common will be the Shudras. So they are basically in the mode of ignorance because they don't have knowledge. But because they are in this Varnashram system, they are all guided. So this Varnashram system is a scientific system. It's not that everybody is left on their own. The Shudras are left on their own, the Vaishyas are left on their own. No, it's not like that. It's a full working system where the Shudras are employed by the Vaishyas and the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas and the Shudras are protected and governed by the Kshatriyas, and all of them are guided by the Brahmanas, who know what is the goal of life, the direction, what to do and what not to do, the correct application of knowledge. So because of this, society will progress in the right direction. But in Kali Yuga, we don't have this kind of society. The Varnashram Dharma was destroyed. That is the first thing Kali destroyed, Varnashram Dharma. So currently society is headless. There's no head, right? So they do not know what is right, what is wrong. But we have a lot of people who are greedy for power. And because the people are greedy for power, they are also very powerful. But they are not guided by Brahmanas. So they are not actually in the mode of goodness also. So they are not really Kshatriyas. Though they have these qualities of heroism, of power, determination, but because it's not applied in the right direction, therefore you cannot call them Kshatriyas. And we also have a lot of greedy people, a lot of capitalists who are very, very interested in money, in gains, but they neglect Goraksha. So they don't give protection to the cow. So therefore, they also don't qualify to be known as Vaishyas, though they have that quality of making money, of agriculture and things like that. But cow protection must go in hand. Without that, they cannot get the name of Vaishya. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says, in Kali Yuga, everybody is born Shudra. There are no more Brahmanas, no more Kshatriyas, no more Vaishyas by birth. So everybody is born as Shudra. And because they are born as Shudra, what's the quality of a Shudra? Let's see here. So quality of the Shudra is Paricharya. Paricharya is service. So the Shudra's quality is to give service, faithful service. And that's it, Paricharya. They serve Vaishya, and they serve the Kshatriyas, and they serve the Brahmanas. By doing this service faithfully to the Vaishyas and to the Kshatriyas and to the Brahmanas, because the Brahmanas are guiding not only themselves, but the entire society gains. So the Shudras also gain. They are also protected and cared for. And because of their service faithfully towards the Brahminical culture, in their next birth, they get a higher birth. So in this way, gradual elevation takes place. So that is the Varnashrama model, which was done previously, right? So scientifically done. So the Shudras, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, the Brahmanas, they are all aiming, the entire society was aimed towards one direction which is basically attaining Krishna, the Supreme, to break through the cycle of birth and death. So even the Shudras, even though they don't have knowledge, because they are serving the Brahmanas, they get Agyata Sukriti. And in this purifies them. And in this way, they elevate themselves. So this is the traditional Varnashram system. So let's look at the, we are going to, it's already 9:30. Okay, let me just finish this a bit more. The three modes, the four Varnas, okay, this is discussed. No being is existing free of the three modes. Everyone is having the three modes, including the Devatas. Even they are having the three modes of nature. So the four Varnas are there to guide society. And the purpose of this Varnashram system is to achieve perfection, the goal of life. And all of society can actually benefit from this. So Krishna says, by following his qualities of work, every man or woman can become perfect. Simply by following the qualities of work according to these four qualities of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Now please hear from me how this can be done. So we won't hear today. we will hear next week in the next session. The next session, I will hope to finish the entire chapter 18. A bit more to go only. Okay. So with that, thank you so much for staying. It's 9:30, a bit late. So let us end by talking about chanting. So we should take chanting seriously. Simply by chanting and hearing our chanting daily, as we increase it, the three modes can be conquered. We conquer through automatically, just a little bit of effort on our part, and hearing this understanding, and by chanting, we will bring ourselves from the mode of ignorance or the mode of passion to bring ourselves to the mode of goodness. Automatically it will happen. So, and from there we can transcend. So that is how it works. So let us chant with faith. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions from anyone?
I don't know, Prabhu, Rajani. Last week I didn't attend the class, so this week seems to be a bit heavy for me.
Yeah, it's heavy. Chapter 18 is a bit heavy.
I need to go through the notes and read a couple of times for this to first to grab myself.
Okay. Yeah. Understand. Chapter 18 is heavy. Yes, Prabhu. So you can hear through the recordings of the first session. It will bring you to perspective. So if you're feeling lost today, by going through the first session, you can understand how we came to this point. The logical flow, the logical sequence.
Initially, it was okay. Initially, for first half an hour was a bit okay. After that, was a bit very heavy. I couldn't really. Yes. No problem. I'll go through the recording and try to.
Yeah.
Any problem, any questions, I'll come back to you.
Sure.
Thank
but
you,
don't worry, Prabhu. It's not only you. We are not used to this kind of understanding or knowledge.
Yes.
Even I had to go through many times also. Like, we people read Bhagavad Gita several times. First round, second round. Now this is level 2, so we are going through second round, and like that we go through round 3. As we read more again and again, each time we will discover something more and more in the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, I didn't realize this in the previous verse. So many years I've read, today only I'm discovering this in this verse. So even I go through this all the time. So almost 20 years plus already, but still I'm discovering newer. That's why Mahatma Gandhi, he says, every day as I open the pages of the Bhagavad Gita, I'm discovering newer and newer things. So don't worry about that. Don't give up. Just continue, and you will find.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions? Any other comments or whatever before we close? Right. So if there's nothing, happy holidays for those of you who are taking holiday. I will be I'm going to Penang actually tomorrow, but we will have our class next Thursday anyway. I'll do it from there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.